west, east, and north blocked off. So when I see them come behind me, it's time for me to dip. It's time for me to dip.
This is Mr. Riggs, Terry Riggs in the house. Black Eyes TV New Beginning once again, coming with you with True Talk. And today's discussion is it time for a new political approach in the Western diaspora. This is a place to be to discuss. Come and say your piece. Come on the panel. And today at 10 p.m. MEST time, do not miss it, because this is a show to reckon with. Peace, love, and harmony.
Do you feel that this Brexit thing, does that affect you directly, or is it more so for like other types of immigrants coming into the country and it's not necessarily something that affects you?
Yes, family. Yes, family. Yes, family. What's good in the house? Black Eyes TV. What am I hearing? That? Yeah, what's good, people? What's good? Black Eyes TV in the house. Once again, bring you another True Talk episode where we chop it up, we talk about the subject at hand, and we let the conversation flow to wherever it naturally takes us. So once again, it's an open panel show. You know the routine. The link is in the description underneath the video. Big up DC, big up B1 for life. Let me just stick the link up, make sure that's there for all of you lot in the chat. Give me 1 second. Yeah, boy, how's your day been? How's your week been? Yeah, big up to the G Block Massive. I've been over there chopping it up today, talking some nonsense about all of this royal family foolishness, which kind of leads into our subject today, talking about, do we need a new political approach in the Western diaspora? And this is, again, a spin-off of a conversation that was already happening, courtesy of the Nation of Islam. On Sunday, we helped pass on the broadcast that they were already hosting, and we showed it on Black Eyes TV7, where they were talking about politics, whether or not a new approach is needed. They had some politicians on there. They had some businessmen. They had a few good guys, a few heavy hitters that weren't too bad for that level of conversation. So they were giving their opinion and talking on what they think is going on and whether or not we should be involved in politics and the current state. And let's tie this into what everyone's talking about, this Meghan Markle situation and all the rest of it. By the way, the link is in the chat on Facebook and on YouTube, so by all means jump in, people. You know the routine. Jump in, let me hear your opinion from start. But again, everyone's talking about this Meghan Markle situation like somehow it's a shock. It's a shock to see racism, deeply embedded in what we're doing and all the rest of it. And to me, it's not a surprise. Obviously, we know systemic racism exists in England. We've known this for a long time, most of us anyway. So if the royal family is how most of us knew it is to be, when we're talking about the government in turn, how much different do we really expect them to be? So in terms of political steps to take, how should we be moving? Do we need a new way to get political power? On the panel show, I heard, conversations about, you make uneasy bedfellows, and you have to trust certain people, even, or you have to work with, not trust, you have to work with certain people you possibly may not like and you may not agree with, and all of these kinds of things was bandied around. But again, is that real politics? Is that really getting anything done? Big up, Lady Divine. Wagwan, wagwan. Um, Again, the link is there in the chat. Feel free to jump on. So, based on the current situation that we're in, based on the backdrop of racism that we live in the diaspora, whether you're in America, whether you're in England, it's the same thing. You're living in a society that's built and predicated off of white supremacy and certain behaviors. When we start talking about politics, again, this is why we're then talking about, do we need a new approach? Because clearly what we've been doing hasn't really gleaned that many results. Wagwan Melanated Goddess, big up yourself every time. Yeah. When we're talking about politics, we don't seem to be making that much headway. And as I said, all the people that's coming in the chat, they've been a part of these conversations today, talking about Meghan Markle and the racism of the royal family. And did we know it was already there? And was we already aware of it, even though somehow to the country it's a shock horror and everyone's jumping out their seat? Today I read an article in The Guardian where it was saying, it's not just Buckingham Palace's crisis, it's the country's crisis. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I hear statements like that's funny to me. That, it takes this situation for them to somehow finally realize that there's inherent and systemic racism throughout all of the system. Yeah, in England, especially, let alone America and, other European countries, if we just deal with that. So again, that's why we got to talk about, the approach to politics. That's why I want to continue this conversation from what people was watching with the Nation of Islam, you know, um, when they were talking about the new approach. And again, I want to hear from the people then, what should we be doing different? What does politics mean to you? Because a brother that came on the panel, on the Nation of Islam panel, Rashid Nix, who was part of the Green Party, I believe over here, he was saying that politics is simply getting things done. And I can kind of feel him on a basic level, but again, based on the system and the framework of where we are, does it work with getting things done as a Black community for us? Are we getting anything done from the current political structure that we find ourselves in and interacting with? Are we getting shit done from the current American construction of politics and how they do things? Is there any effectiveness? And if not, how should we change it? Should we still be subscribing to the old original parties, the Labours, the Conservatives, the Democrats, the Republicans? Should we be only coming with independent parties at this point? So again, we can target certain things. And one thing I want to deal with today, and I want people to comment on, outside of the local politics situation, do you guys believe that politics in general can help us in the different countries? Because again, I hear a good, strong case most of the time made for local politics. Yeah, that's the way forward. We can change a community, immediate change. We can elect someone that we know, la di da di da di dee. I get that. But outside of the local level, is there really any room within the current political structure for growth and change for our people? And if there is, what does that look like? And can it be achieved in the current constructs of what we're at? Big up E. Yeah, these are the questions we're asking. Again, enough of you people was here on Sunday to see the Nation of Islam. So again, any comments that you have on that show that you obviously didn't get a chance to voice on the show, live and dives, please feel free, jump on, voice them. But again, let's talk about it, and I'm mindful of the current topic of these royal idiots, yeah, and their ongoing sagas and stupidness. But again, if you're going to mention that, be mindful that when you're watching that play out, transfer that over to the government and the systems and ask yourself if that's the current thinking of the country, if the Queen and the royal family are, just a small type, a small part, or a small look at the whole country, yeah, as a whole, like if that's the majority opinion, of racism, segregation, all the rest of it, how much hope do we have in the political arena? How much political clout can we get? Can we get all the clout we need just from money? Because again, I hear people talk about business, and I'm totally with that. Business, finance, it's needed. If you've got a political party, you have to support it financially in some way, shape, or form. But again, do we see it only as a financial problem? If we can we throw a certain amount of money and just achieve what we're looking for as black people? I want to know, or is it a deeper problem than that? Is it something that is unattainable? Yeah, I want to hear from both sides of the fence. If you believe that there is a political solution, if there's a way to get out of these problems in the current political situation, I want to hear from you. Jump on, the routine, hit the like button, support the channel. Yeah, the donate button is there for the Cash App and for the PayPal. Get me? But most importantly, hit the like button, share the link out, and the link to jump on the panel is in the description and it's also in the chat room. So, come and join me. I want to hear from you. If you don't think the country's racist, if you don't think it's that bad, again, please come on. I'm dying to hear from you. If you think we can achieve certain aspects through through the current political process, I want to hear from you. I really want to know. I want to hear those internal optimists. If you think that there's no place for politics in the Western diaspora and it comes down to us having to leave, or it comes down to us having to have stronger relationships with Africa or the Caribbean, I want to hear about that as well. Because again, this is about solutions. We're trying to find some. But I don't want to just hear about the problem. I want to hear about what people think possibly can be done. The routine. The link is there. Hit it. Come on. Chat with me. I want to hear from you people. Where you at? Where you at, my people? Yeah. Can it be, or their new approach? Is there a new approach? Let's hear from you. Is there a new approach? While you guys are waiting and debating in your minds whether to on, whether to write a comment, whatever you're doing, yeah, don't forget, if you haven't already, go and support Black Eyes TV X2. That's our secondary channel where we got people like Mr. Riggs over there doing his talk with the creatives. We've got other shows all based around entertainment and other bits and bobs. So by all means, go over there, check that out. Wagwan E, my brother. What's
Big up.
good? What's good? What's good? How you doing, brother? How's your day been?
Yeah, like another runner.
Yeah, I'm good, bro, man.
Yeah.
Just here chilling with the missus, locking in, seeing what everyone's got to say about this. You get me?
Yo,
But how
E,
you doing, though? Yo, big up, bro.
Wagwan DC.
Yep.
how y'all doing, man? How you doing? One second, let me get these earphones corrected. There we go. Hello. Peace out, black family. How we all doing, man? We still black and loving ourselves, man. How we all?
Most definitely we are, brother. Most definitely we are. I
Yo,
see you
Every
getting
day.
berated over there, D block, son. I see you getting routed. The,
yeah, but
the
yo, you're the
female.
little princess, bruh. The Duchess, man. Y'all Duchess, man. Gracious, they should have
Let
kept
me
it
ask
black.
you a question.
Yeah,
Let me ask you a question, D, because you're American, yeah. When you saw
yeah.
the because again, we're not going to kind of get away from not talking about it. But when you saw the interview and all the rest of the foolishness, was you surprised? Was you surprised by
I
anything you
was.
heard?
I was. I thought that the empire that colonized most of the world would have been more like, accepting of people. And, no, I wasn't surprised at all.
Right. Okay.
Yo,
Okay.
it was funny, bro. I was like, they discussed it. It was the queen. You know how the queen had that conversation? Because way her eyes look, she just like says, I can't reveal this information to somebody. It was the queen. It had to be like, is the darky going to be too dark? Whew.
Right. So again, if that's your royal family, if that's your monarchy, what hope?
Yeah.
Again, when we're talking about the political system, when we're talking about the same politicians who, subscribe to the same system, they will tell you they serve queen and country themselves. You understand? So how different are we really expecting the mind state to be? And based on that narrative, do we need a new approach to politics based on knowing what we're dealing with? And this situation, this princess, bringing it to the forefront, if it needed such a thing, because I still don't get that, how people didn't understand what was already happening before time. I'm baffled at that one.
Well, my question is how impactful does the royal family have on your day-to-day politics? Because this looks like this is an internal beef thing.
Well, the thing is, again, when we're talking about, what the day-to-day politics is what's happening, and, are the royal family in it, then most people are going to say no. But then at the same time, does the Queen still have powers to dissolve Parliament, to do certain things? Yes. So she's, this whole, are they relevant as far as, what they're doing, does it matter? And if they're exhibiting an attitude, a mind state, and they're the royals of the country, then the lowly citizen, like what are they going to be thinking? Isn't that an endorsement to that behavior?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like again, it's like the Trump situation or Biden. If they're up front and they're saying certain things, again, it look a certain way for the rest of the country, because these are elected people. These are people that people are saying that they support. And no, isn't there a trickle down effect? I don't get it. Is there a separation? Is people are thinking that it's just the Queen and her family, but they're not relevant. So there's no correlation between what they're doing and what like the government does and what the other people do in the country. Is that what I'm hearing? I want to hear from people.
I don't think people I think people are more shocked because it was said on TV, right? Like if you would have asked them, like a lot of the people that are talking about it now, do you think in private that some people in their household were thinking like that? A lot of people I don't think would have been too surprised. But I think people are more surprised that it's come out and yeah, everyone's fanning the flames.
Okay. Daniel, where you at, brother?
Yeah, hi. How you doing, man?
Go. Well on, D. It's African Sons and Daughters organization for the communities. Someone close to me. But what you think on the situation, D?
Well, I was just kind of listening and waiting to get brought in, to be honest.
This is a free for all, bro. Jump in when you want.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But yeah, I was kind of leaning on what you were kind of talking about in regards to overall picture and why it shouldn't really be too much of a surprise. But I do want to kind of stick on the subject because we're talking about the political approach. And I think one thing just to touch on the royal family is that, it doesn't come too much of a surprise. Some people do find it a surprise, which is surprising to you. But we have to acknowledge that communities outside of our communities have their own agendas. They have their own code of practice. They have their own way of operating. And for people that find it a surprise or a shock, they might not be fully aware of that. But for people that aren't, that are aware of that, wouldn't be too surprised or shocked at their approach that they take to someone outside of their community coming into their community. But talking on the subject, definitely we don't have a unified political movement at the moment. We are definitely missing it and lacking it. We had a lot of organizations in the past, and that's, I guess, as well, what has really born a lot of the modern movement, the work that has been done in the past. So yeah, we are definitely at a great time to start doing it. And actually, things that have gone in the past have been born from situations like this, where there was no getting away from some of the challenges that we were facing as a community, and we had no other option but to organize ourselves and start pushing our agendas to address some of our issues that aren't being faced,
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. All right. Listen, brother Hakeem has joined us. This is one of the moderators from the Nation of Islam panel show on Sunday that we were co-streaming with them, and to get the word out and to get the conversation out. I wanted to invite him because in his duties within the show, he didn't really get a chance to say a lot. So I wanted to invite him on and kind of get his opinion on certain things. So what's good, brother? How you doing? First of all, you good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you for inviting me here, brother Richie. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, brother. Not too bad. Chilling, willing. Just trying to work out this whole day of listening to people's somehow surprise and shock over this royal family foolishness. Oh my God, they're racist. I can't believe they asked about the shade of the color of the baby, and you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's a madness. You know what I'm saying? To me, it's old news. But how do you feel, when you watch things like that? And again, tying that into, is this not more of a wake up call as to, do we need a new approach politically if we know that these kind of people are the gatekeepers in a lot of instances?
Well, in my viewpoint, I would say that we can't afford to suffer from social, cultural, or historical amnesia. And sometimes this is what we seem to suffer from. And when you suffer from amnesia, you lose all memory frame of reference. And so sometimes when you're being hit with a blow and you lose all memory frame of reference, just like, I don't know if you're someone that watches boxing, brother.
Fully.
But when you suffer a concussion and the referee has to give you a standing 8 count, and they have to ask you questions. What's your name? Where are you? What time or what date is it? And then you have to look over to your corner. And then your corner has to remind you where you are and who you are and what fight you're in. And then people look at you and say, yeah, you're ready to carry on fighting because you answered the question correctly, because you have that frame of reference correctly in your identity, in who you are, what's your name, in what date and time you're in, and who your opponent is. And then you're ready to step forward and carry on fighting. We need to make sure that we have the right people in our corner. We have to make sure that we have the right cornermen. We have to make sure we have the right cutmen. And I have to say that as an individual, I'm blessed to be able to know student minister Abdul Hakim Mohammed, who is the European representative of the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam. And the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is the representative of the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad. You see, I've had a good trainer, I've got a good cut man, and I've got a good manager in my corner.
Oh, the nation's in the UK?
So when I've been hitting the head of a historical and a social and a political and economic concussion, I've had three in my corner that's been able to give me a frame of reference and revive me, for me to know what time it is, where I am, what my name is, and who my true opponent is, and step forward. Does all that make sense so far, Brother Richie?
No, most definitely. I hear you totally.
And so this is what we need collectively as a people, because when we have that, like you said, we're not now surprised at an institution that has been our opponent, not for a day, not for a week, not for a month, not for a decade, but for centuries. An institution that has been built on the backs, not just on our ancestors, but it's all been built on the backs of us, a current and living generation. When people would say that the leading member of the United Kingdom royal family, Queen Elizabeth, has just been celebrating being head of the Commonwealth. And as we know, the wealth has never been common. And when you look at those nations and those countries that are part of the Commonwealth, the majority of them are black and brown. How did the so-called royal family become the head of all of these countries? It was through colonialism. It was through imperialism. It was through enslavement. And that still carries on today, hence they're the head of that. So if I was to ask you, Brother Richie, which African or Asian country is recognized as the head of state of any European nation, you would have to say that doesn't exist. But why is it today we can name black countries that still have the royal family as their head of state? That's because of the lasting, living, not dead, but living legacy of imperialism, colonialism, and slavery that has come out of the UK. So why should people be surprised at what's currently going on regarding questions that was asked of, and let's just go straight to the point, would their bloodline be pure with a non-white baby having an entitlement to some level of United Kingdom throne? When that royal ruling has been steeped in colonialism, imperialism, and enslavement. And that royal head is also the head of its political system. Even though they say that decisions have been taken away from the monarchy, it is still the symbolic head. And when it comes to political rituals and political settings, the royal monarchy still has to take the lead in symbolizing that. So with all that being said, if we know that's what the monarchy is steeped in, and if we know that Parliament also acts on behalf of monarchy, then yes, sir, I would say that we have to have a different approach and a new political approach if we are looking to get involved in politics that rule different areas and activity of human life.
Right. Facts. Simple. Now, before, I mean, after this, anyone can jump in on this. But last thing to you, brother. Or the last two things I'll ask you quickly, and anyone else can come in on this. Do we need to abstain from the current political parties, meaning the current political titles, meaning the Republicans, the Democrats, the Labours, the Conservative? Do we got to stay away from that? And secondly, based on the panel that you guys had and hosted, there was a few religious people, obviously,
Hmm.
involved in politics within that construct of that conversation. Do you think being a political leader and being a religious leader can run comfortably together at the same time, or do you think it's a conflict of interest, or will eventually cause a conflict of interest? And then any one of you guys, please jump in, voice your opinion on that question.
Personally, oh, am I good?
Yeah, I'm just gonna let the brother answer, DC,
Oh,
and then you,
okay.
and then come in after that.
Yeah, brother Richie. I mean, on the Sunday just past on community question time, you're right. We had various representation from within the political arena. We had political activists that have been part of mainstream political parties before, and they are Pan-African in their ideology and viewpoint. You know, we had a representation from another brother who even was very much, his consciousness was very much born out of being a 5%er or a member of the nation of gods and earths, even though he's based here in the UK. And we also had a Christian pastor that's a party leader of an independent political party. Because as you know, in the Nation of Islam, you know, we always deliver a platform and encourage unity from amongst our people, regardless of what label they choose to go by. And if we look at, especially if you're asking from a spiritual or religious standpoint, if I go to the Bible first, and if we look at Jesus, Jesus was very, very political, contrary to what the popular belief may be in certain structures or in certain religious groups. Jesus was extremely political. You know, when you turn around and say, render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's, or render unto God's what is God, that's a very political statement. You see, if you're living in an area that's occupied by a foreign force, see, if you're living in Palestine, if you're living in a so-called Middle East, or really, as some people correctly would say, Northeast Africa, if you're living there and there's a foreign occupying force from Europe that is ruling your land and have put puppet rulers in its place, because again, you're living under colonialism. And if you turn around and say to your people, well, you know what? Follow whatever has been put in the land from these foreign rulers. You can follow that as long as it doesn't conflict with your belief of God and what truly belongs to God, which is yourself and your way of life and your way of freedom. As soon as the rulership that you live under conflicts with that, you've got to bow down to God and not the ruler. You've got to follow God and not the ruler. You've got to liberate yourself and fight against what the rulers put in place that's unjust to you and the God that you serve. That's extremely political. But they do not like to portray Jesus in that way. Go into Hebrew tradition and belief and the Torah. You see, when Moses or Musa, when he went to Pharaoh, he didn't go to Pharaoh and then stand on the platform and say, look, please people also vote for me. I want to be Pharaoh. I want to be vice Pharaoh. I want to be Pharaoh's assistant in his political order. He went to Pharaoh and said, and demanded, let my people go. It's time for separation. That's very political. That's extremely political. If you're a Muslim, and at the time of Muhammad, of 1,400 years ago, peace be upon him, when he was liberating the first believers of Islam against the tribe of Quraysh, a very powerful Arab tribe that controlled the economy of Arabia, that controlled the spiritual belief of Arabia. And when he decided not to bow down to that way of life anymore, that was very political, even to the point when he found the first safe haven for himself and the believers to go to, which wasn't from Mecca to Medina, as some people think. Prior to that, it was from Mecca to Ethiopia, Africa. And he saw the unity of an African Christian king. This was before any European ever came with the European version of Christianity. Africa always had its own version of indigenous teachings of Jesus. And when the believers went there, and when the tribe of Quraysh followed them and tried to convince the Ethiopian king to turn over the first Muslims back to them, and the Muslims quoted from the 19th chapter or surah from the Quran, surah or chapter Maryam, to show the unity of belief between them and the Ethiopian Christian king. And then the Ethiopian Christian king refused to follow the demands and orders of the tribe of Quraysh. That's political. That's a spiritual basis for a political view. So if we're looking at things correctly, I don't think that we should separate the two, because from an African standpoint of belief, whether we look at our states of rulership that we had under the Yoruba system, or whether it's the states and nationhoods that we had under ancient Kemet system, the spirituality was the core that guided all of the endeavors of our belief system, whether it's economic or political or educational, because we're a holistic people. So we shouldn't separate the two, because we're a holistic people and we've always been balanced.
All right.
That answers your point, brother.
All right. No. You gave a thorough accounting for why you think it can run. So now to everyone else, can religious leaders be political leaders? And can we even think about using the current systems, meaning the current political parties, to achieve what we need to achieve? That's the question to everyone. You know, what do they think? I asked the brother to come on because they were part of, it was the Nation of Islam that hosted the panel discussion on the approach to political situations. Do we need a new approach? So that's why I asked the brother to come on, and I wanted to give him a chance to lay out his premise firmly. But again, it's a free-for-all. So by all means, jump in, DC, whoever wants to talk. Let's hear your opinion. The link is in the chat. You know the routine. It's all the same game. Let's keep it moving. What's good?
Well, I would personally say that, yeah, I believe the approach has to change. I think we need to stop the Messiah complex of like, well, this person listens to rap music and he hangs out with our favorite black athlete, so let's vote for him. I think, or her. I think that we need to start thinking like, because see, for me personally, I from the organizations I've been part of, we learn to like learn from people that are stronger than you. So I look at how Asian Americans, I look how Arabs act, I look how other communities behave within politics. They have lobbyist groups, they have caucuses that operate and work some behind the scenes. I definitely believe that there needs to be some degree of separation, but when you're part of a country that you pay taxes for, that separation has to be more like economic, in a sense that like maybe not 100% of your funding will go to your yearly fundings will go towards black business, but at least 47 to 50%, for like bare essentials and things that you can get from other places. should religion can religion and politics be separate? It depends on the religion and depends on the person who practices it. Because, like, for example, we have the separation of church and state here in America, and it it works that you have tons of Christians and you have tons of people who are able to put forth policies that do not interfere with day-to-day non-Christians or non-Muslims. But I do believe that in a political sense, there is a degree of isolation where, 9 times out of 10, Muslims will work with other Muslims before they work with a kuffar. Then, like, Christians have that thing where you don't want to be unequally yoked with people. So it does, you do see that there is some kind of confliction there. I do believe that, like, if you are part of a religion and you plan to join in or you plan to lead a political movement, it's best that you leave your religion at home and then, think about the humanity before. But yeah, I do believe that we need to engage in politics, but at a different plane. There needs to be some degree of, like, we pick the person, and instead of looking at it from, like, the grand scale, mainly control the local, the person that can make our decisions at home.
No doubt, no doubt. Dan, what's the opinion? What's the word? Victor, I want to see you jump on this panel. You got a lot to say from the chat room. Melanie, got this. I want to hear from you as well. That
Yeah,
would be
Victor's
nice.
good.
For
Yeah,
me,
let's go.
for me on the religious thing, right? I think it depends what the person is putting first. Like like one of the brothers that was on the Nation of Islam panel the other day, he was going on like Jesus and everything was going to be first, and he's going to be talking about that before black issues. So in that regard, I would say no. But from obviously, I'm only looking at it from the outside, but certain people, like, say for example, MLK or even Malcolm, those kind of people to me seem like that the issues of the people were before the book, even though they were interested in the book. So in that sense, if they're going to be political, I would be much more interested in being involved. So yeah, as long as it's not religion first, it's people first, then I think it can work. But the other way around, like, I'm just gonna have to keep it moving.
Okay. All right. Dan, you there? Share your opinion if you got one on this one.
Yeah, I'll throw in my opinion. I can talk for African Sons and Daughters. African Sons and Daughters are a part of, or organization I'm a part of, and we're a non-religious Pan-African organization. We have members from all denominations, to be fair. I think the emphasis for me personally is on the Pan-African aspect of our organizations and our political agendas. It should be at the heart of it. But in saying that as well, in the past, and you have to acknowledge that we are very spiritual people, and this is a spiritual, you need that kind of, I guess, that discipline, and it's very similar that you find in some religious kind of disciplines. Yeah, because you have to be dedicated to a cause, and yeah, but I do think religion and political organizations should be separate to a certain extent, but the spiritual aspect is there, and what you'll find is that most people that are spiritual and that way inclined tend to get involved in community organizations and community activities for the overall betterment of our people. So they are naturally going to gravitate to these kind of things. And on the point of, what was the second point? Because the first point was religious, whether or not religion should be.
Should there be a different approach to politics?
Oh yeah,
As
because
far as the political parties go, can we still use the parties that are currently available to us to achieve anything?
Yeah, because another interesting point that was made, because I was kind of listening to it in the background, and yeah, because we have to, there's that old saying, you have to think local, think global at local, right? And realistically, at the moment, we don't have strong communities, because if we had strong communities, we'll be able to mobilize and you know, put a lot of things into place to address our issues. And then the side effect of that is that we would have political power alongside what we're doing naturally anyway, you know, just from the way that we change our approach, just from the way that we change the way that we're operating. We would have more economic power, we'll have more political power in local areas, and that will translate into global areas. And I think policies is quite different depending on where you are, but we're talking about the UK and maybe like the US here. What you'll find is that we swing a lot of political states. So then if you have that active community that's involved and um, you have to appeal to, that's where we can be involved in politics. And it wouldn't actually sway too much what we're doing anyway. You know, that's the craziest thing about it. We can do our own thing and mobilize ourselves, and then the political stuff will fall into place because we can address our issues and we'll ask other people to address our issues as well. So yeah, I think it's much better to speak about it from that point. That's where we need to kind of work towards, because we're not there yet.
All right. I will say this on the religious aspect. I mean, from the way the brother Hakeem presented his argument, as far as in our original circumstances and in our original societies and our ideal environment, definitely spirituality, moral code, all of those things are interwoven into our politics. But the reason why I have a problem with the religion and the politics thing in the diaspora, Western diaspora, which is where we're at, is because again we're already in a country that's declaring themselves a Christian country. So, you know, based on whatever that means to them, and you know, I'm not even going on like they're hypocritical within that stance themselves, but nonetheless, they're claiming a stance. So again, if we were to have a political leader for a laugh, and I'll use Brother Hakeem just because he's here as an example, if it was a Nation of Islam person, I I I think at some point it would affect or maybe possibly hinder what we're trying to achieve just based on the fact that you're going to get resistance to the religious aspect without people even considering certain political aspects of your argument to
Wait,
begin with. You fighting that kind of resistance, being in a country that's not that's already got a certain denomination and trying to hold on to that identity or hold on to that part of their identity, which again is also made up of this whole white supremacy racist thing, which they're already going to have a major problem towards us with. So, you know,
wait, couldn't it?
that's
Hmm.
gone.
No,
Go,
I'm
DC.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Couldn't the solution be like, because I mean, to the Nation of Islam's credit, if you look at the way certain ministers work, what happened with America is that the race thing kicked in. So there had to be like a black Christianity, a black Islam. You know, like you have certain ministers and sister brothers here. You have certain ministers of the Nation of Islam that will teach that like the new face of Islam is that matches that of Bilal. That the time of the Arab supremacy within Islam is over. You know what I mean? And then you have the same thing within Christianity that form groups like the Hebrew Israelites and and even the Moors for that fact, the 5%ers and things like that. Like, you know, if you're going off that backdrop, so if like whenever they have someone go talk to the president, yeah, it makes sense why they will never have a Farrakhan because Farrakhan doesn't, he won't play that game. You know, the like kumbaya, everybody, Islam is supposed to be humanity. No, it's about us, black people,
What do you want to say,
So
brother? Yeah, jump in.
can I jump in there?
Yeah.
Definitely,
Because
bro.
personally, I think all the brothers, including yourself, Richie, have made extremely valid and enlightening and wise points for people to learn from and understand and comprehend. And if I deal with one of the points first, which is, you know, to truly to move forward, and for us to move forward for what benefits us, we can't deny who we truly are. And we are truly, in essence, we are spiritual people. You know, there's, as far as I know in my study, maybe I can be corrected this evening, but as far as I know in my study, I can't name one African nation state in our history on this planet that's ever been non-spiritual. So that means that we have always been spiritual people, and we shouldn't deny that. Now, I'm not saying we should put a religious label as the order first of a political movement that everyone has to follow. What I am saying, and what I did say earlier, is that our spiritual essence can be a guiding force, and we shouldn't separate that from all other endeavors that we do, whether it's education, politics, governing. I mentioned a few areas of human activity.
Yeah.
When the brothers mentioned about thinking or acting local, but thinking global, 100%. You know, it's beautiful that you have representation and brothers from the States, and you've got brothers from here from UK. And the reason why I'm mentioning them two countries is because for decades we have heard the UK government and the US government always say they have a special relationship. They have a special working relationship. So I love what you're doing this evening, because we've got to do that. We've got to have more of a networking special relationship across the diaspora, across nations that we are positioned in. And we've got to be able to do that to give empowerment even to our local causes. 100%. When the brother also mentioned about lobbying, that's very, very important, especially when you do not have numbers of large amounts in certain populous areas geographically where you live. Lobbying can be so important. But then we've also got to think, what are the key ingredients behind that lobbying that makes a social impact? One of them is definitely economics. So if you can galvanize yourself locally, economically, with local business, with independent, and I'm emphasizing that again, independent local funding, then that's what backs your local politics. And that's the reason why you can lobby against local councillors to make sure that they look out for your self-interest as a collective group of people. And once that's in place, then whoever is representing that voice in the main seat of power, whether it's Parliament or Washington or whatever the case may be, there is substance behind them rather than symbol, because that's the problem that we have in the UK and US. You know, we focus on the symbol and love seeing a face within Congress or the Senate, love seeing the face within the House of Parliament, the House of Lords. We love seeing the symbol, but there's no substance that backs them or
Nobody
holds
now bring nothing back.
into account. Because there's no local established power that they have to answer to. That's a collective. So being a collective lobbying power in your local area is extremely important. Very important.
Definitely.
And so,
Listen, definitely.
And the last thing, and
Hold
the
on,
last
brother.
point I end on is that
Okay, go on.
the last one, and if you notice, you know, I was using the term spiritual and religion interchangeably, because I know that sometimes the term religion will throw people off. So that's the reason why I use the term spiritual. You know, and as the Honorable Minister Farrakhan once gave an example, and he said, look, we should take the wisdom from the wino or the drunkard in the street. And the audience was like, huh? And he said, look, the drunk, he doesn't care whether it's rum or whiskey or vodka on the label of the bottle. He just cares about the content of the bottle. And can that content fulfill that one aim and that one objective to get him drunk? And he said, I should be that same way with you. I shouldn't care about what label is on your bottle. I should just care about the content of your action and your intention, of your mindset. And does it get me to fulfill that one aim and one objective? So that's also how we should be spiritually and socio-politically. And do not allow that label to divide us, because then we can't achieve that one aim and that one objective.
No doubt, no doubt. Let me just read Melanated Goddess because she can't come on tonight, but she's a regular supporter. She was saying earlier the government doesn't have to be spiritual, though. The example of MLK and Malcolm X was good. We need people first leaders, not spiritual guidance as leaders. I'm also highlighting other people's comments as they come in. But, you know,
But I would say the Nation of Islam is still very much influential within the hip hop community. I would say it's one of the most influential black organizations and spiritual organizations that is still influential in the hip hop community. And even to use hip hop as a point, brother, even to your point, brother Richie, which I do take on board, even when you said that one of the aspects that you have queries or doubts about could be that whole religious aspect. If religion is put first, and it's mentioned by others, if religion is put first and then religion leaves people behind, and then that could divide people or that could put people off. And also because if you're living in a country that already has a religious order, and that religious order has even been used to oppress you. I know you didn't use those words, I'm paraphrasing, but I would imagine that's one of the social situations that will come up of questionable doubt, which you're right. But then if that's the case, we should, and again, because music's come up, well, let's use music as an example. I'm not going to relinquish or give up hip hop because Vanilla Ice was successful. That ain't his. I'm not going to give up reggae because UB40 came into it, a white group, and they were successful. That's ours. I'm not going to give up jazz or swing because some white jazz band member came up and was successful in. That's mine. I'm going to reclaim it because it's mine. I'm the originator of it. So why should I give it up? That's me giving too much credit to my enemy or to my opposer. So it's mine. And I will show how it's mine because I'm a master of it all. And I will show how I will master it and rule with it because it's mine. So whether that's religious or whether that's politics, we've got to remember we were the first people on the planet to establish political orders.
Okay.
If you can,
which is a very important point. That's an important point to batten down because again, when we talk about politics, we always demonize the word, the system. But again, what you said, we have to bear in mind that as Black people, we were the originators of the systems that are now corrupted and reformed in ways that don't make sense. But when you're talking about political systems, the art of, as Rashid Nick said, that they getting things done, that's us all day. That's the African Black mind state. That's right. So we, in that sense, we can't do without this conversation about politics. But as we're saying, it's the way that we move forward within it. And again, it's one thing to always have these conversations in a way from an ideal perspective, meaning if we was in our own society, if it was mostly Black people, if we could set the premises for a lot of things, then, X, Y, and Z could run. Cool. The same way I hear people talk about the local politics thing, which I mentioned at the beginning of the show. Local politics, the cases I've heard made for it, I have no argument for. It's definitely something that's needed. But as I've also pointed out, a lot of the time that the local politics starts, some good starts to be put into place in some way, shape, or form. And then suddenly, once we send these people off to the big leagues now, the Senate House, the House of Parliament, suddenly they become inaccessible. Suddenly the pipeline of change dries up. So again, either this is a preconceived thing that's happening, a pre-designed situation, or what? We're just very unlucky, or we're silly, or you understand? So that's why I asked earlier on, besides the local politics, do we realistically, and anyone can answer this again, do we realistically believe that in the current climate, we can affect bigger change, i.e., the running of or whoever's running the country, the prime minister, the president, that level of politics, as well as the local.
Can I say something on that?
Jump in, brother.
Yeah. I think it starts with the basics first. Yeah. For me, it starts with the basics first. And if we are not organized on that local community level, we won't be able to mobilize anything on a national or international level. And I know that's how things operate right now. A lot of the local Labour parties, I can only talk about UK, but I think it's similar in America with the Democrats. But a lot of our people, we live in safe seats, yeah? And a lot of them are reliant on our people not really being involved in politics, And if we can mobilize on that local level, there's a lot of decisions that are made on a day-to-day basis that affect our day-to-day lives. But because we're not involved on that local level, we're not seeing any change. So I think that's where it starts. And I'll kind of bring it back to that point on a local level for me personally.
Okay. Sorry, brother Ricky.
Yeah, jump in, brother.
Okay. You see, just to kind of get more context to your question, it sounds like you're putting a question forward regarding what is the what should be the long-term vision of politics. What's the long-term aim of the politics? Because if you're mentioning, can you have an effectual change on a prime minister or president, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Well, again, kind of even feeding off from what the previous brother said. I mean, as well as, yes, organizing and getting things established at a local level, but you've got to have an overall vision of what the end game is.
Right.
And if your end game is beyond the local level, but then also, what's your end game? Is it just to influence that current prime minister or that current president? Because they come and go. Or
right.
Your overall vision and aim and objective to establish an autonomous rulership for yourself and your people collectively, whether that's locally and globally. That means that you've got to have a long-term aim and vision to be able to get to the power brokers that's behind the presidential seat, the power brokers that's behind the prime ministerial seat. We're talking about bankers. We're talking about multinational corporations. We're talking about weapon manufacturers. You see, going beyond, like I said, that symbol, if we truly understand how politics govern all 9 areas of human activity that Neely Fuller Jr. mentioned, if we're going to understand how human activity is played out politically, social-politically, then it's about having an overall vision of how you are going to be a power broker. And so taking your lobbying tactic and strategy from a local level to a global level, but that takes international networking. So imagine if you've got local lobbying that's going on in the States by your people, local lobbying that's going on in the UK by your people, local lobbying that's going on in France and Germany by your people. But then that's fed into economical building programs if you have a roots of origin in the Caribbean. If that's fed into your economical programs, if you have your roots and origins in Africa. And you're looking to have establishments in those countries to stabilize the governmental structure in those countries in working for their self-interest. Then that feeds in to not only your local lobbying, but your local lobbying that's connected to other Black local lobbying political movements and platforms in other European countries. Then, man, you're looking at an overall vision of a political network of not just looking to have, because I have no interest in having an ear of a current prime minister or having the ear of a current president. It's about building a global network of social change and autonomy, of independence for your people. And that has been done. And that has been done by others. This is the reason why, if anything happens to a collective group of Chinese people in the UK, as you know, Brother Rich, if people from the Far East in the UK are mistreated and the Chinese consulate gets involved and the Chinese government gets involved, why? Because the UK is concerned about the economical trade with China.
Right.
They make sure that justice has to be put in place. Whether that means Asian immigrants that are dying in the back of lorries and trucks, the government makes sure justice has to be done because they know their economic trade is in danger. They know there are political, Far Eastern lobbying political parties that have substance behind them.
Right.
That starts to put pressure on the UK government.
So that's what I'm saying. So, and this was another question I posed earlier on just before you came in. You know, as part of this new approach, we definitely need to strengthen our relationships with our Caribbean countries, with our African countries, right? Because as you said, that is a major part of the power base of those communities that also, you know, have a vote, have economic say, and all the rest of it. And remember, we're talking about one area here because economically, that's a whole nother situation of economic development to the communities on the ground, because they're the ones that have to support the political party, whoever they are that we put in, local or upper echelons. That's going to require money. That's going to require, you know, some form of effort. So again, I'm with you in what you're saying, that I think part of the approach definitely has to include stronger ties economically and politically with our home-based countries. Because again, as Black people here in the Western diaspora, I don't believe we've got enough traction, enough juice. You're not looked at as a commodity enough to even listen to. And again, America's one thing; they got, you know, a good couple, few hundred thousand, a few hundred million, sorry, Black people. But in England, we're the stark minority. So again, this political process or being recognized to me is a harder uphill battle that we're looking at, in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned. But you know, um, that could just be me. I personally think that it's an uphill struggle to get certain traction simply based on it. It's a snowball effect. That's one of the things, and this is from the white boys and the controlling factions. I think that they don't want to again relinquish power in a lot of areas because again it will only continue on and on and on. It's like giving reparations. Once you open that doorway and you actually have a real conversation about what's owed, the figure just gets silly, and suddenly you're talking about amounts of money that will, you know, inherently cripple your whole economy. Like COVID's crippled up the place. If they had to pay reparations in one go to Black people across the Western diaspora, that would cripple everything the same way they're trying to say COVID has. So to me, there's a lot of downsides to why they would want to relinquish power, and why I don't think, you know, the voting system is equipped solely to help us become liberated or to put us in a better position. But you know, that's me on that one. I definitely believe that. Um, I'm curious. Are you allowed to vote at the Nation of Islam? Is that an option? If you want to,
Yeah, I mean, each individual in the Nation of Islam, you know, it's not that there's a restriction that as an individual you cannot vote. You can vote, you can register to vote. I have voted once in my life, but it was a strategy vote. And this is when our brilliant brother, the late Bernie Grant, was still alive and still with us. And I needed for him to be in a better position. And so he was working alongside, and he had promised to work alongside with Minister Abdul Hakim Mohammed regarding the ban on Minister Louis Farrakhan, and even not just Minister Louis Farrakhan, but also, you know, there was a ban on Kwame Ture, aka Stokely Carmichael, and others. And he had also promised to put, speaking of reparations, he had also promised to put reparations on the parliamentary floor. So it was a strategy vote that I took part in, so he could have a seat in power, and he could do that. And he was true to his word. He done all those things. So unless, again, we're voting for our self-interest as a collective, unless we have political education so we know how to vote for our self-interest, then it's almost like giving a gun to a baby. You know, you could end up shooting yourself, or you could end up voting against your own self-interest, unless you know what you're doing and why you're handling that vote, because the system, as it presently stands, does not belong to us. The political system, as it presently stands, doesn't even really stand for poor white people.
Right.
Especially when the political system, as it stands, deals with the popular vote. You know, maybe at one time, within the UK, there was more of a reality that it was being practiced on, that you would send a voice of representation from your local area that represented all that you had established for yourself and the people in your geographical area into Westminster, and was to Westminster to abide what the local people was putting forward. Maybe it was like that many decades ago. But since then, it's flipped around and it's changed. Now, Westminster sends the political voice to where you live to represent what Westminster wants in your area. Hence, that's the reason why, as you would know, and other brothers on the panel that live here in the UK would know, see, the term and the terminology Westminster bubble hasn't come up from nowhere. The reason why the mainstream media and political scientists would say there's been a Westminster bubble for far too long, it means that Westminster has encapsulated itself and having a voice just for a few, and then that few voices are represented to where people locally live, rather than it being the other way around. So, so brother, you know, in conclusion, you know, I would say again that we looking to, because again, when you say, and again, I'm paraphrasing you, but when you say get the attention of, when you use the term get the attention of, I have to question, well, how are we doing that? You know, are we doing it in a mature way or immature way? You know, like how a child looks to get the attention of a parent?
Yeah,
you know,
and there's
being
positive and
politically
negative
immature?
ways.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, why do we want that attention? Maybe we should change a term and say, you know, how do we develop our political focus rather than get political attention? What we need is political focus. Because when you have a focus, that means you're working on a plan and an agenda for what you need to fulfill. Not that you just want someone's attention to make you feel that you're valued. See, when you're politically focused, you already know what your value is. And that's what you're looking to that's what you're looking to manifest and maintain. And you're using an avenue of politics. And it doesn't mean now you need to be a part necessarily of a mainstream established political party. Can you formulate your own political party? Yes, you can. But that's the reason why I like what the brother said earlier about lobbying. Because you can even be independent without even formulating our political party. Or you can formulate a political party just to lobby. But it's like what I said before, it's what is that now connected to? And unless that's connected to other political establishments that also are a part of you in other parts of the world, then that means that your political game is very short term. And that means your political aim and objective isn't really that high. Just finish off by using one example. Muammar Gaddafi, in my opinion, I believe that Muammar Gaddafi was politically assassinated. Why? Because when he was voted to be the head of the African Union, and he said, look, what we're going to do is have an African currency that we will control. And I'm going to use the oil behind that. And to use the oil behind that, I'm going to tell America and Britain and other European nations that want my oil that I no longer want their euro, I no longer want their pound, I no longer want their dollar. They've got to give me gold bullion and sterling silver for my oil. I want real gold for it. And I'm going to use that gold to back our one nation African currency. Now, if he was successful in doing that, if he was permitted to do that, that would have outvalued the euro and the dollar and the pound. That's the reason why I believe he was whacked. That's the reason why I believe our brother Gaddafi was assassinated. Now, that was a political assassination based on economics. But again, it shows an example of how we have to be economically thinking and how it has to tie into our politics.
No, listen, on the Gaddafi one, I definitely agree. We definitely need to tie in the economics. I don't think we can get away from it. Every movement needs funding. So I don't care what you're doing, whether it's a charitable thing, whether you're trying to teach the kids, whatever, any movement, real time, needs some sort of financial funding. So economics is a necessary conversation. But something interesting, and remember, people, the link is in the chat. Don't be afraid to jump in. If you saw the Nation of Islam panel show, this was the brother that was hosting, helping to moderate the comments from the people and the people that were on the panel, Brother Hakeem. So again, if you've got any comments about what you saw that day, jump on. But that's why I invited the brother here to help continue the conversation. But as always, the link is in the chat. Anyone can jump in. DC, Dan, feel free to come back in the conversation. I know me and my brother are just chopping it up right now, but anyone can jump in, feel free. One of the things, though, Brother Hakeem was saying on the day, which was another interesting point, and this was in response to some of the people saying in politics, you have different bedfellows, different allies, or you have to make alliances with people who may not necessarily share your beliefs or your end game ideals, but for the time being, you need to work together to get things done. And Brother Hakeem said, but if they've already shown themselves.
That was Minister Abdul Hakim.
Sorry, Minister Abdul Hakim, said that, how can you get into bed with these people if they've been shown to not hold to anything they say, not be, they just don't stand on their square, basically, in any sort, publicly, in their political promises, and most of the time privately, they're even more dirtier. So, knowing that that's the current climate, when we're trying to advance ourselves, is it still a necessary part that we need to play? Or do you think it's something that we have to, no matter how hard or whether it makes the slog extra hard, is it something we need to abstain from? We need to not by any means necessary do let's join our fight to other people. Let's join our agenda to other people. Do you see that being a problem? Do you see that being part of the ongoing problem of why we certain times don't get things done in the political arena?
Can I throw something in there?
Go to, brother.
Yeah, I don't do the whole free for all thing. Sometimes it's good to just be brought in. You know, I don't want
That's
to talk
all.
over anybody.
Go to.
But yeah, so yeah, because I'm gonna have to love you and leave you in a minute. But just on the point that you were making, yeah, these things can be done, and just to kind of bring it back to what I was saying before, politics and things like that can be done as a side note. If we're organized, and I think for me, I'm a student of Marcus Garvey, and one of the things that stick out for me from Marcus Garvey is organize or perish. You know, if you're not organizing yourself on a simple level, on a very simple level, on a local level, you're not going to be able to organize yourself on an international or national level. This is where we are at the moment, you know, as a people. And it's funny because I wrote something recently, and I don't know if you guys are hip hop connoisseurs or anything, or if you ever listen to hip hop. There was a Nas album. It was written right in 1995, and one of my biggest tunes out of that was "Let Me Talk to You." And I think one of the biggest lines out of that for me was brothers. I'm replacing brothers, yeah, with another word that he was using, but he's like, brothers are playing PlayStations while they'll be building space stations on Mars, plotting civilizations, yeah. And right now, we've just had the launch of the PlayStation 5, and they've just landed the space rover Perseverance on Mars with improved camera equipment and improved scientific equipment to explore Mars further. Sometimes we're lost on the trivial things, but we're not even organized on that trivial point. Right now, people are advancing into other civilizations. And if we are to organize ourselves on this world or on any other world in the planet, we need to organize ourselves. And yeah, first of all, and then I think the politics will fall in line with that, because we'll have the strength needed behind us and behind our communities to set any agendas that's in our interests, you know. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna love you and leave you guys. Big up Black Eyes TV7 all day long, and all the other panelists. Big up brother Hakeem and the Nation of Islam. Big up Richie, and yeah, big up all the family that are viewing.
Before you go, let the people know where to find African Sons and Daughters, please, so the people know. And I'm gonna have you back on still to talk about that.
Yeah, 100%. You can check us out on www.africansonsanddaughters.com. And yeah, we're about bringing like-minded members of the community together to put on services for ourselves and others. And like I mentioned before, it's simple. We have to organize or perish. And at these times when we find challenges universally faced by our community, we have to have that kind of approach to our challenges. So yeah, that's what we're about, coming together to put on youth services, general community services like well-being officers, therapists, food programs. That's what we're up to. We're in East London, but we're trying to recruit throughout London. And so yeah, if you're tuned into this and if you know about African Sons and Daughters, big up yourself, and you can go to the website and see what we're about. But yeah, just get involved. Don't sit around talking about things. It's not a talking shop thing. It's about being active. That's what I want to kind of leave as our last note. Be active no matter what you're doing. Yeah, because if you sit around, we'll be talking about the same thing in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. They've been talking about the same thing from the 60s, from the 50s. Come on.
Yes, Daniel. Nice.
Yeah, big up, Riggs.
Peace,
you jump in as I leave. You jump in as I leave, Terry.
No,
but that's okay, man. That's okay, man. That's okay.
As you said, action speaks louder than words. And I'm always on the go, and I'm always in action. I'm from here, there, and everywhere. So I don't stop 24 hours.
I hear you, man. But can I just say one thing, yeah, on the politics? Yeah. Because we've seen in the past year with the past couple of years with Black Lives Matter and things like that, the stretch and the reach of our people globally. Yeah. And this is why you would want to disrupt political movements and organizations that can mobilize that amount of people on a whim, more or less. Yeah. And what I would say is that I always use the analogy that if you had 1,000 people marching every month because they cut local public services or they cut local youth services, whatever they would raise awareness, you know, they would make a political noise, whatever you. But if those same 1,000 people committed to putting in £30 a month to addressing some of their issues, be it youth services or cuts to local community services or whatever you are facing, or whatever issues you're facing in your local area, they will have the money to address those. So that's kind of where we need to be at as a people. Put your money where your mouth is, more or less, because things aren't going to get any better. We're facing a real economic downturn, and yeah, it's not a joke. So please just get involved, support something that's close to your heart, or support African Sons and Daughters, support anything. Just get involved. Don't sit around and talk about things. Take it out of the fairy and put it into practice, family. Trust me. Yeah, 100%. It's a beautiful thing when you take it out of the fairy and you put it into practice. That's all I can say on that.
No doubt.
I know I'm preaching to the choir on this panel. No,
it's about viewership. It's about the viewership. It's about the wider viewership. And none of us, again, can get away from hearing that over and over again, because we all have that, low days or low energy days. So words of encouragement like that is real. And, it's practical. It's logical to think like that if we want to get things done. So it makes sense, brother. So appreciate it. Well, go on, Riggsy.
Thank you.
Yes, good convo, good information, good everything, and that's on the panel. Peace to everybody in the chat. Make sure you press that like button. This is a discussion that's a long gone week's discussion, from Sunday till today till next Sunday, as Brother Akim will tell you, in forms of what they're going to do next weekend. But, as we talk about the politics and understanding the approaches, if you actually understand what's going on, is that we're more unifying more than ever. Because one thing that we are one step ahead at this precise moment is that where we are at this precise moment on Black Eyes TV is the internet. So it makes the Americans around the corner. It makes the Caribbeans around the corner. It makes the African people around the corner. So then why don't we utilize that in the fact of creating our foundations in everybody's community? So imagine if someone in London has a farm, someone in the Caribbean has a farm, someone has a farm in Africa, and we're able to exchange products and services. That products and services we're able to juvenate within our community to raising money to able to fund every situation that we're doing, where we don't even have to rely on this government. And if we want to go into politics, as they always say, a politician can always be bought. Because the one factor is, it's all good having a black party, but for me, the black party, are they going to allow that to even rule this country? It will be a heavy fight. But we should need to concentrate within our local community in the fact that if we're able to control the markets with the locals, we're able to go into local politics, which able to give us a good situation.
Well, Riggs, let me ask you this question, bro. You see, when you see this the mayor right now, that the Asian mayor, that was Sadiq Khan, that's his name, innit? Yeah. Do you see us being able to have a black mayor at this point? Do you see enough economic and coming together clout to make something like that happen? Is that a realistic prospect?
Yeah, a mayor is easy to obtain. It's the mayor's not the problem. It's who he's what table is he around. Because it's not a prime minister, it's not a queen, it's not a king. It's just a mayorship, in the fact that they will, to make political things look right, they will put a black person there. There's no big thing. It's like how they'll put a black police commissioner. But does it make any form of change?
Right. It's no more than a figurehead, you're saying.
Yeah, so, because as I said to you, it's a round table. So if a black person goes in there, what party is he in? Do you understand? What for instance, what party is Khan in?
it's Labour, in it.
Labour. See, so it only helps with the Labour Party. So they're gonna only go on Labour narrative. But if
That's
it's go on.
but that's what I was going to ask you, Tel. So do you believe it has to be an independent route, or do you think we have to have these
can have
uneasy alliances?
we can have an opportunity of an independent route of let's say an individual that goes in there, but then, as I said, it becomes limited. They're not going to give him that much leeway because of the other parties. The other parties will put blockages to his situation.
Okay. And you know, and no, sorry, go on, Tel. Finish.
No, as I was saying to you, the mayor is London based, but it does not cover a whole community of black people. So there's still going to be an issue. What about the black people in Birmingham? What about the black people in Manchester? What about the black people everywhere else? It doesn't work unless we come together and create an initiative, like as in what other people have said, like for instance, all trying to find some form of property in Croydon and come in as a collective in Croydon where we can have control of that facility, and then we have power. But no one wants to do that. No one wants to take that risk.
Do you think that we can only have, and this is to you, Terry, and everyone else to come in on as well, do you think then that we can only have a realistic conversation about this when we have full control of an area? So again, it's kind of a futile conversation to have until we truly take command of the community situation. Is that the only time we can really have a realistic conversation about anything bigger or on a wider level? Is it silly to kind of, that's what I'm saying, is it premature to have these conversations until we execute that first step? Or are we still, are we on the right track of questioning these situations?
What I could say to that is that we as we were talking about going back local, what do we have that is solid within the local community that can bring everybody together?
Tell me.
And that's the point. What do we have solid that we as a collective can come together until we come to the table and take action, not just talking, but taking action within the local community? What do we have as an institution or a situation that we can able to provide some form of services or whatever to the people within the local area? We don't even have a hold in one little area within London itself. So we have to start somewhere. These are the biggest issues that we have. In the fact that if we come together as one people and say, okay, we might just have let's look, okay, Nation of Islam, they've got a premises, let's go over there, let's help them out, let's grow from there, or let's go to another organization, let's all come together as a collective and start to build a real estate. We're not even doing that. Everything's an individual. Everyone's buying a house for themselves. Everyone's buying a business for themselves. Where is there an initiative of a collective?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, whenever we seem to talk about politics, it always seems to appeal to the smaller subset groups, those that earn this amount of money, the few that are homeowners, the few that maybe are in a certain wage bracket or whatever. But again, our collective issues as Black people never seem to get addressed. Now, reparations seems to be the one collective issue that we all seem to be on. Should that be the jump off point, as in that's the number one issue?
We
That's
need to
what we're
think.
pushing for. Unless that conversation happens, we don't want to hear anything. We don't want to be involved in any political process. There's no vote on
But,
any level.
but then, as I said to you, it goes back to the same narrative. Even if we went for reparations, who are they going to give the reparations to? If they said tomorrow, okay, we're going to pay you everything that we're going to do, that we've done, who are they paying it to? These are big facts that are there at this precise moment. We need to galvanize. We need to understand in the fact that look at even how the Asians have done it. They've got a whole heap of warehouses that does wholesales. They've got a whole heap of small shops that sell the wholesale products. What have we got? It just goes silent until we start to push the narrative. And the only time I see that when we push the narrative is when we get pushed back so far that we have all reasons to have to retaliate, and we explode. And then they say, "Oh, look at these people again. They're exploding." These are the factors of what we have. We're not sitting down on a round table and coming as a collective. And even just to think of the youth, what if we don't have nothing? What legacy are we giving our kids, our children? Sorry.
Yeah, brother, because I think that these are points that I think that we've covered from the brother from Sons and Daughters of Africa, and what brother Terry was just beautifully summing up. I think we've all covered this, and we're saying the same thing regarding galvanizing, organizing, and more importantly, establishing yourself in a local way, but with an overall game plan to expand that, with an overall vision that unifies yourself with other established social political agendas and movements and institutions. Because again, we have to be institutional thinking, not just movement thinking, not just organizational thinking, but institutional thinking. Institutional thinking is establishing. See, movement is inspiring. Organizing is galvanizing. But institution, it's autonomy, is established rulership and empowerment. And I think that we've gone through the motions of that in this discussion, and how important that is to establish from a local aspect and have that grow and expand. And this is the reason why Community Question Time on Sunday, it was an honor to have people like Charles Gordon take the initiative party, because he's looking to establish many points that you and Terry was just discussing regarding establishing not just having influence, but actually establishing, controlling certain wards within boroughs of London, and then networking and expanding out from there. So those points that Terry raised, that's the reason why I have a lot of respect for the Taking Initiative party. That's the reason why I have a lot of respect for the work that Lee Jasper has done over the decades. Because over the decades, he has encouraged this thinking and this political activism over the decades. This is what I respect about Brother Rashid Nix. This is what he also tried to establish in wards in South London. So I would say what was just expressed by Terry and what's been expressed by yourself and what was expressed by the brother earlier that unfortunately had to leave. I think we've got that, we've covered that point, and we know that that's a reality that has to be established. And again, when Brother Terry uses examples of other communities that have done that. You know, Europeans that practice the Jewish faith have done that. They would think that amongst their European kith and kin, they are smaller in numbers. You know, amongst their European Gentile cousins, they would say that they are smaller in numbers, but yet they look to establish themselves in Pacific wards or boroughs of London or other parts of the country. They look to supply for their needs. They look to supply for their educational wants. And then they have their self-interest of their own self-protection and their own self-achievement for what they want for that collective within that borough that represents who they are and what they are. And then they expand from there. Because if that local councillor does not meet their need, they move as a block vote. We'll get you out and put in who we need to continue to protect our needs that we provide for ourselves.
Right.
And then they expand on that. And then whoever gets into Parliament or the House of Lords, as we mentioned and we broke down earlier, there is substance now behind that person. And they have a strong lobbying because there are economical interests involved. And they tie that all the way back into the state of Israel.
Okay.
So,
No, I'm hearing.
Sorry?
No, I'm hearing what you're saying. Let me ask this then. Real time now, as far you know, we're back in this reality now at this point. Everything we're saying about the local politics and establishing it and making a harder and stronger community makes sense, stands. Do we freeze frame on the wider voting and the wider political situation until we have that established? Or do we keep playing the game of, you know, the lesser of two evils, which was another kind of point that was talked about on the panel show? You know, do we continue to kind of crawl along and choose the lesser of two evils when it comes to the higher up positions, you know, as far as presidents and prime ministers? Do we keep, you know, interacting with that system, or do we completely abstain from that at the very least until we, as we've all agreed upon, establish a stronger position in our own smaller communities? Or can we do that simultaneously?
I like to use this analogy in the fact of Usain Bolt. We all know that Usain Bolt was the fastest man on the planet, and for a period of time there was no man on this earth that could catch him up. Why am I going to concentrate on that first place when I know there's second and third place? Now, for me to able to rehearse and train and keep on training for myself, one day there's two things that will happen to Usain Bolt. Number one, he may retire. Number two, he may slow down. But I am sufficient enough to keep up in the fact that if he slows down, I may catch him up, or he will be able to remove himself and I may able to take the forefront. So in saying that, we need to establish ourselves on and look within ourselves to creating that economical system, creating that, helping out whoever needs help in every situation, because we are all creative people. We use our tools to able to create a better thing and able to project ourselves, as Richie, I always say, is to project it as looking at a plan of 5 generations deep or more, so that we're able to have a foundation for them, so that even though it might not happen in our lifetime, that 5th generation that may have that baton may have that opportunity to run straight past Usain Bolt. But we're not creating that foundation. We need to start taking that action, and even just to create a foundation. That's all we need.
All right. Cool.
I think, brother,
Yeah, he wrapped up your position as well on that one. Yeah. So we don't need to
I
be.
mean, definitely. Again and again, I think we need to recognize, because yes, I mean, collectively we can have a collective voice that holds the mainstream political system to account. You know, we can have a collective voice that exposes the hypocrisy or the injustice of a mainstream political figure or a mainstream political party or system. Yeah, we can do that. But going back to what we said before, our focus should be what Terry just brilliantly articulated. You know, we shouldn't ignore the mainstream influence we can have. Because again, if our brother in the States is still with us, and again, if I've got this wrong, he can 100% correct me. But remember, I mean, Biden was losing the presidential race within his own party. And I think it was Carolina or one of those states that put him over to be then the lead nomination of the Democratic Party. But it was that black vote that put him over the line. So again, that shows the collective block influence and impact we can have. But why just give that away? Why give it away? So we know, and same thing as brother, I mean, you mentioned about London and the mayor and what have you. We know that, yeah, we're the highest numbers of populace that we have within the UK, excuse me, is in London. And if someone knows that there's a 500,000 votes that they need to put them over the line, why would those people that make up a 500,000 number of votes just give that vote away? That's collective block power that you can use to meet your needs. So if we're thinking in that way, you know, we shouldn't ignore what goes on in mainstream of politics, but like brother Terry said, our focus point should be what we can politically build independently for ourselves. That's our focus point. That should be our focus point. But if we're not going to ignore the mainstream, as I've just explained it, that's how we can focus on it regarding what is the collective power of block votes that we have, that the mainstream understands that we have. And the mainstream understands that we give it away in what I like to call just blind faith or blind loyal vote. You just loyally vote for this party because, oh, my parents voted for them. And, you know, when my grandparents first arrived in this country, they voted for them. That's just loyalty voting. But what you get in exchange for your loyalty?
You know, that's true talk, in the fact that, you know, when women always ask, you know, they want a family car and all they want to do is to get from A to B, but the man in the house says, you know what, I want a Ferrari. So they're waiting 10 years to get this Ferrari, and all the woman wanted is just to drop the kids to school. Doesn't care what car it is. And these are the biggest issues that we have. We always want this, and I'm saying it's okay to look at that Ferrari, but while you're looking at that Ferrari, you can still go and buy an A to B car so that your wife can drop the kids to school. You know,
realities.
You know, not focusing on the point of, yes, I got to get this Ferrari. 10 years have gone past, 20, but next minute, before you even when you get that Ferrari now, your wife's giving you a divorce papers.
Thing into the ground.
See, so, you know, but you know, for me, as I said, it's all the political game, everything. For me, it's about the children. And if we're not able to set any form of legacy for our children, what's the point?
No, definitely. We gotta play the generational game.
Because your name will go for generations and generations if you set legacy. Yeah, so it's and this is where everyone has that aspect of life in what they do. So it's able to help one another. Whether some people want to travel out, or some people want to be the political game and stay where they are, but it's a more of unifying. If the Europeans could use the triangular slave trade routes, why can't we do the same? Why can't we do the same and use them same routes and
Go ahead.
establish ourselves in every place? We're in the
Go ahead.
lion. We're in the lion's den. So doesn't it make sense that we're the ones in the UK that has reach to the globe? Everybody within the UK knows somewhere else around the world.
Get that networking system on.
Go ahead, bro.
Listen, to the comment that's I'm highlighting on the screen, definitely we always need to hold our leaders accountable. You know, we've had past True Talk conversations about black leaders and about the state of our leaders, and you know, there's always going to be an ongoing thing, but this is where again it comes down to code of ethics and code of conduct that we hold ourselves to as a community and as a people. And again, if we are holding on to a code of ethics and then we nominate someone out of our own group to represent us, then definitely there needs to be a level of accountability always, you know, when people are going forth to speak on our behalf as emissaries and, you know, MPs and all this kind of thing. They have to be accountable. But again, that word is nice, but certain times I don't think people actually really know what that looks like because they don't have an idea of keeping themselves accountable. So then when you get a leader now, your benchmark for how you measure them becomes very loose and free just because you don't have any accountability for your own self in your own lives.
But then, Brother Richard, would you then say this is where our spiritual essence has to take a place, because that spiritual foundation will give you that moral compass in being accountable to yourself and to others. And
Most
then
definitely.
that spiritual foundation in them will also hold you to account.
Most definitely. I mean, as black people, spirituality is a part of us. There's no getting out of that. Again, we've just sorry, go on, Riggs. Jump in.
No. I'm just going to allow you to finish because I was going to ask Kim, in forms of what we're going to receive for Sunday. What kind of stuff would you like to put forward, and that is going to be happening on Sunday?
Yes, sir. But we're doing a part 2 on Sunday, and in line with the discussion we've been having this evening, as you know, part 1, we had local UK politicians and political activists. Sunday just gone. So part 2, joining our UK representatives, we're now going to go global. So we will have political activists from the continent of Africa, from Ghana and Uganda. We will have political activists from our own indigenous people, all the way in Australia, all the way to the Isles of the Pacific. We will have political activists from the States, and we will have political activists from Europe, either from Spain or the Netherlands. And I'm still waiting for a confirmation, one more confirmation for someone from the Caribbean. So we're taking it global this Sunday.
Okay.
And with the aim of, as we've all been discussing this evening, you know, we can't just stay in our geographical political pockets, especially when we're fighting or working hard to establish the same things where we are in different parts of the world. So it's how that global connection can give power and help to support your local activity and vice versa. So that's where we're taking it this Sunday.
No doubt. And I think it's a necessary step because, again, if we are going to do anything on the big scale, as we've already established. It's got to be a wider effort. It's got to be across the whole diaspora, as well as back to Africa and back to the Caribbean. Yeah, so if we're not linking up, if you're not seeing these conversations, if you're not making the effort as media or as people in the community with organizations to reach out to your brothers and sisters across the diaspora and going back to our homelands, then you're doing yourself a major disservice and you're missing out on a major power pack. Yeah, right there.
So yeah, I was gonna sorry,
Right.
brother. I was gonna say 'cause I'm gonna have to sign off pretty shortly.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up today because again, I'm glad I asked you to come on because I think you set certain premises out neatly. I was glad I was able to ask you some direct questions, whether it was about the religious aspect, my own little curiosity about the voting in as far as Nation of Islam goes. Um, Whether or not I personally agree with religion in all of its ways and means, and whether I agree with the Nation of Islam or Hebrew Israelites or any of those situations, I will say I commend you guys for opening the doorway to certain conversations, especially when it came to the vaccine conversation, as well as this political approach. So, big up and salute to you guys for that very much.
Thank you, brother. And I will take your humbling words of praise and gratitude to student minister Abdul Hakim Mohammed. I will make sure that he knows of your support and your great words. And brother, with what's been demonstrated tonight with yourself and brother Terry, and I love the fact that the work that you brothers do continuously and tirelessly, and not just here in UK, but again across the globe. I see the travels at Black Eyes TV, what you've established and what you do. It's beautiful. And my last point would be, which you already manifest, which is we've got to work in our collective self-interest. We have to. And with what the brother said before he left the platform, the brother from the Sons and Daughters of Africa, when you mentioned, and he used the example of game consoles and space technology. What we need to remember is that at the root of all of these things that we use, guaranteed, there is a black man or black woman that was at the root of the invention and design of the game console. What the brother mentioned, guaranteed, there's a black man or black woman at the root of the space technology that the brother mentioned. The problem is that we are seen as a brilliant resource by others, but as a collective of people that should have self-interest, we are not using our own selves as our greatest resource. Other people are still doing it. And that's the reason why we must always teach, enlighten, propagate, galvanize, and establish our collective self-interest. So those brilliant ones that are out there using their skills and using intellect to propel others, they will now propel the collective from where they come from.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Big thanks to you, brother, for joining us this evening. You get me, and giving your time. I'm glad that we got to hear your voice because I know when in your duties, you're kind of on a tight ship, getting things done and getting other people to comment. We don't get to hear your voice. So I'm glad you've come on. And again, for those that don't know, the brother has done a nice extensive interview for Black Eyes TV in the past. So you can go and check that out if you like how the brother's been putting it down and dropping his information this evening. You can go and see the interview with him, Mr. Riggs, me interviewing. It was a good chat. The brother talks about his journey, his story, to where he is now. I'm sure there's been a lot since then because that was a good few years ago now that we did that interview. So I know your story's grown a lot since then, and I know you've achieved a few more bits and bobs, but definitely that's worth a look. So for those that don't know, go and check out Brother Hakeem and his interview that he gave us exclusively on Back Eyes TV 7 with Mr. Riggs. Riggs, do you want to screen share and show anything, or shall I screen share and show the
yeah, you share it because yeah, my computer might play up. This computer might play up a bit.
1 second, just bring up. Yeah, brother, don't let us keep you. If you need to go,
Okay.
feel free to jump off. Yeah, we're gonna
No
just
problem.
highlight
And if
some
people
parts.
are interested for part 2 of Community Question Time, please keep following Black Eyes TV because they will be promoting Community Question Time for this Sunday, and all contact information and registration information you'll be able to get via Black Eyes TV. So please follow Black Eyes TV if you want to partake or observe or be an audience member of Community Questions. So, Brother Richie, Brother Terry, thank you so much once again. I'm truly humbled that you invited me on. To be honest with you, Brother Richie, I'm not really a talker. You know, I prefer to just organize and build behind the scenes, man. So I actually don't even
Police.
That's why
Police.
that's what talk is for. In the fact that it's just a simple discussion and to speak our mind, and that's what we use that every Tuesday for. Anybody can come on, feel free, explore, and if they have a topic or they want to do a promotion, they can always come on to the True Talk and provide that.
That's it. That's it.
Yes, sir. So thank you once again.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. Big up to you, brother. Appreciate it again for coming on. Yeah, let me just play this little thing here. This is Black Eyes TV X2. For all those that don't know, this is the second channel. Bit of entertainment going on there. Talking with the creatives is a show. So let me just play this promo for over there. Check this out, people.
Hello, my name is Mark Gray of Carmel Greystone, and you are watching Black Eyes TV 7.
These women wanted to be invited to their own different parties, and they were not being allowed to. And the film really explores what's preventing them from being allowed. And what I try to explore in the film is the fact that they need to first determine that they don't need to wait for permission from someone else to be allowed. They look to themselves, and even in the story, I have some preachers trying to say to them,
"You go anywhere you want, and there will be hell to pay."
To think that you could respect me when I couldn't even respect myself.
All right. Yeah, people, that's talking with the creatives. That's on Black Eyes TV Black Eyes TV 7X2. Black Eyes TV 7X2. Go over there. If you haven't subscribed, go and subscribe, support the channel, support Mr. Riggs over there doing interviews. Talk with the creators. We've had the Trench Town experience going on over there. Um, we're going to have a lot more shows and interviews concerning hip hop, other genres of music, the film industry, the spoken word situation. So keep tuned, keep it locked, support Black Eyes TV X2. And if you haven't subscribed to Black Eyes TV 7, the main event that you find yourself on right now, please go ahead, subscribe, share out the shows that you are part of, and by all means go into the back catalog, because I think some of you may be surprised at some of the interviews that we've had, some of the conversations that we've had, the places that we've traveled to go and get interviews, the organizations that we've spoken to, and there's so many more to come, and so many more interviews with classic teachers from the Black community, teaching you knowledge of self and Black family first, which is what we specialize in. But again, it's been a nice evening of conversation. It's been a nice mellow one this evening. Again, thank you to Brother Hakeem for joining us and kind of leading off the talk this evening. Big up to everybody in the chat that's been interactive, that showed love with comments, that shared the link. Yeah, big up to everyone that came on the panel and voiced their opinion. DC, Brad, big up to African Sons and Daughters. Big up to E. Yeah, big up to the people there. Riggsy, is there any final words you want to say to the people before we sign off? If not, I am going to lock this stream down and say good night, peace, powers, keep it black. And if you're surprised about racism in England, I don't know where you've been. I don't know what you've been doing. Yeah. But clearly you haven't been paying attention to your environment. Yeah. That's all I got to say on that. So stay strong, stay mentally healthy. Yeah. Keep your heart right, and peace and powers. And you will see us back on Thursday for the next show. Look out for the promotion of the next show for Thursday. That's the next show. You'll see the flyer on Facebook, and on Instagram. Peace and powers, people. Peace and powers.